Word on this.
Um, ooh, got it. Okay. And then, what was
Yeah,
it?
that's
It was,
pretty much caught me by surprise about Secret Weapon. It sounds like they're gonna close, but kind of reopen with some of the product lines. I don't know, or some of the people are starting a new thing. I kind of got that impression from it. Sure.
well, they're an interesting one, right? Because like they were the first, like that I knew of, like the first like custom bases and
Oh,
like
right.
extra, like they had their paints, and like their paints didn't do it for me. I actually really didn't like their paints, and they didn't age well at all. Like I have some now, and they're just awful. They're bad compared to
Oh,
like contrast paints, compared to
oh,
like
right,
modern
right.
shade paints. Anything that Vallejo touches, basically, it doesn't hold a candle to. So, like I just have never really done that. And like their resin bases were of an older quality, and I just kind of think that maybe they didn't like, they didn't modernize.
Yeah, I think that's a
So
fair assessment. I mean, I agree. Like my Tau army is pretty much on secret weapon resin bases. But nowadays, I tell you, it's been a while since I bought one because as I go to the store, I'm looking at stuff like this nowadays. It's like for the same cost of those secret weapon bases, I can have pretty nice stuff and just newer
yeah,
designs and stuff like that. And then the same with the paints. It's like, yeah, at a time, you mentioned the baby poop earlier. That was magic. Like for my Ultramarines army, I was doing all the gold and all of that. Like that. That's the amazing way to do it. But I couldn't tell you the last time I actually broke out a dropper bottle of baby poop, right, and threw it on a model.
yeah.
Like I couldn't even say the last time I used any secret weapon paints because, as you were saying, like nowadays it's for me it's Vallejo, it's contrast, and more exotic paint stuff. So
Oh,
AK
absolutely.
is pretty huge in my lineup nowadays. It's funny. I saw that Duncan Rhodes was having
Yeah.
a Kickstarter for paints, and I saw the link early enough that I clicked that I could have got like the super early mega limited edition, get everything mega cheap, and I was just about to go for it, and I'm like, I don't even need 60 paints. Like what? Why? What on earth reason would I have to actually buy this compared to what I already own? So I just skipped
Oh,
it.
I get it. The good thing is that they announce stuff because on their own time. So on in British time, and I'm a bit of a night owl, trying to improve on that. But
Mm.
yeah, very early morning, I saw when it first came out, and I had that kind of same feeling. I was like, oh, I can pull the trigger on this because I'm sure it's definitely going to blow up. And then it was like, I have so many fucking paints.
Yeah,
Like
right.
either get rid of them or like use the old ones for terrain or something. But like all the paints that I need right now, I have like relatively new. And I'm like, I'm not going to invest a ton. I'll wait for him to get established. But I'm excited. His like the Too Thin Coats brand. I think it's called Too Thin Coats,
I'm pretty sure that's
right?
what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it looks cool. I hope it's cool. Really right now when it comes to overall brand, like I haven't tried AK at all. I've used their basing material a lot, but I haven't used any of their paints. The only thing that I've really like been impressed with recently is just like I don't know why I've used Vallejo stuff before for years, but I never really looked into their metallics. And
Okay.
Vallejo metallics are just wonderful. I hate
Oh,
painting with metallics
yeah.
because I'm used to Games Workshop metallics.
Oh,
There's
which are
not
the
as much
worst.
pigment. Yeah, they're the worst. And then Vallejo's alcohol based silver is like my favorite one,
Oh,
but you have to use
yeah.
very specific brushes because it will destroy brushes.
Right.
And you
And
have
as
to
you know,
clean it with alcohol.
I use cheap disposable brushes for a lot of stuff. So for me, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with those kinds of materials, it's like, here's a 35-cent paintbrush, and I'm not even going to bother cleaning it. It just goes right in the garbage can.
Yeah, exactly. So, that, but even their acrylic metallics are wonderful. They are really good. Yeah,
Yeah. In fact, if,
but
if I was going to point to a Vallejo metallic very specifically, their air aluminum is perhaps one of the finest acrylic metallic paints that I've ever used. It is a bright silver color. It is incredibly, at no point can I see the particulates that make it shiny. It reminds me in some ways of the old Tester silver enamel. that had some very similar properties to that. And it is literally a one coat paint. You just go one wet coat and you have, polished silver, aluminum foil on your part and and then from there you do whatever you want, washes, shades, whatever, right? It's an acrylic. So
wow. Okay. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Aluminum air.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys heard it here. Check out Aluminum Air if you can still find it, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is, of course, in your phase. Garrett and Jeremy are gone for the week. Garrett, I think he's got something going on, but Jeremy is in New York City right now. He just got done with AOS Worlds. He'll be giving us a full and detailed report on how Team America did next week. But he was nice enough to share with me a random image with no prompts, no text. And it was of a really, really big sauropod that extended into several rooms because of how long its neck and tail were. And so, he clearly was at the Museum of Natural History. So I got very excited by the random text from him because that is a wonderful museum. But I guess that would be in his phase, right?
We could actually each do that if you want. So if you want, you could do a little bit of the Alex phase and then give the Jeremy phase. And then I'll go ahead and take on some of the John phase. And since I've been interacting pretty heavily with Garrett this last week, I can do a little of the Garrett phase, right?
I might wait till he's on to do his phase because I haven't really practiced my French accent. I would do the whole thing. I would wear like a striped shirt. I would wear a beret. Oh yeah. I think I would really, really need to, do it.
I mean, I'm sure you have both of those, right? He just gives those as gifts for Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, you'd
berets and striped shirts.
Normally he gives scotch, but right. you'd think he should. Or he does give French wine. I have gotten a few bottles of French wine from him.
Oh, very nice.
Pretty good bottles too. Yeah. But yeah, in my phase, just like last time, since the Blue Sky Open, maybe played a couple of games of AOS. Had to change my list after I had misplayed a couple of times. And I'm very, very, very confident on a new list. Switched around a few things, had a few I told you so conversations with Jeremy, and I'm ready to play games. But before I play games, I got to do some other life stuff, like get married. So every waking moment has been about getting something with that organized. And, we're getting there. We're getting there, right? It's 3 weeks away. So exciting stuff. I have been, truly not doing any wargaming hobby progress. I still have like a half-built Coven throne because my final bit to fill it up is at Jeremy's house before I can finally start doing bigger painting things. Right now it's just base coated and zenithal primed on different parts. It's a very good conversion and it has to be painted in segments. So we are kind of waiting on that one. That one's in the hangar. And then, I often don't, usually I accidentally don't do my regular routine for physical activity on Wednesday. So I push it on over to Thursday right before recording. So I don't often have a drink, but right now I'm having just a real basic whiskey soda. And I got as a gift from my family for my birthday that happened just a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, a subscription to this like booze service called Flaviar. And I haven't really signed up.
I've seen the ads for that before. Yeah,
You've seen the ads for that?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know what it was at all. So I was not prompted. No one had asked me before I found it out. So I'm about to have a subscription to it. And I think I'm going to pick the Scotch option. You have to choose booze. And you basically get like every 4 months, every month you get a taster set of like 3 like vials. I would assume they're like, several shots worth of alcohol of your choice. And then once every quarter, so 4 times in the year for your subscription, you will have your choice of several different select, spirits to choose to actually get a bottle delivered as well. So they do like gin, tequila, rum. Then they also do, they break it down from, they also do whiskey. They also do bourbon. They also do scotch. So you don't do just an overall whiskey, bourbon, scotch. They separate whiskey into whiskey, scotch, bourbon. And so I think I'm going to pick the scotch because normally before I became better friends with, some of the Northwest Corsairs, I was definitely very explicitly a bourbon individual. And I have since then drank a ton of scotch in proximity to individuals, Jeremy, Ben, etc. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what type of scotches they have available on the subscription, because they'll just like send you some. Yeah, that's the only thing that's in my phase. What about you, John?
Nice. Well, it's funny. I've looked at some of those whiskey subscriptions. In fact, you guys may remember, excuse me, earlier on when we were just starting the In Your Phase show, and certainly towards the end of Wide World of Wargaming, we were I had like a whiskey of the week that I was doing, and so I thought joining one of these whiskey services would be kind of a cool way to explore different things. And I myself am actually more of a bourbon drinker, as you mentioned, used to be. And my general migration or exposure to scotches has mostly been from hanging out with Jeremy. So Jeremy is determined that I too will switch from bourbons to scotches. But I always explain, like, part of why I drink bourbon is because it's the great American liqueur there, or liquor. So it's part of why I enjoy that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, of course.
And of course today I am enjoying a fine, speaking of whiskeys,
not your Papa's Grappa.
No, that's all gone, long gone. Oh man, that was so good. That was a whiskey or a wine barrel aged grappa. Grappa usually being a clear liquor. No, this is just, of course, some St. George Spirit single malt whiskey. I'm literally drinking the last half shot out of the bottle here. So just to appreciate it, I did not throw it on ice or anything. So sipping that a little bit straight. Other than that, much like Alex, I have been preparing for weddings. Now, Alex, has an easy time. He's only preparing for one wedding. I have two weddings to prepare for, all the things. That reminds me, I need to get my suits down to the dry cleaners there. So not this weekend, but the weekend after, going up to Oregon, Southern Oregon, to see a bunch of family and my cousins. My cousin Asha is having her wedding to her longtime boyfriend Randy. Great couple, great people. It'd be good to see family. I don't get to see my family too much, so it'd be nice. Now, it's worth mentioning my whole family lived here in the Bay Area, and then I went away to the Army, and basically when I came back from the Army, everybody in my family moved out of the Bay Area. Left me behind. So I was,
that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. I stayed. So anyway, got that coming up. Few other things. I've contacted some friends. It's weird. We were things were going back to normal, and then things they weren't going back to normal, and now we're kind of facing a new normal, which I call it the rebellious normal, where everyone's like, you know what, we're gonna do whatever we got to do, but by gosh, we've had a taste of being outside and contacting other people, and we're gonna do that. So I'm still like, am I how much game store time am I ready for? I'll be honest with you, that's kind of where I am on that. But I'm still enjoying going to friends' houses and having them over. So looking forward to this weekend, hopefully going over my buddy Sean's house and probably play 40K, unless I can talk him into AOS. He always wants me to teach him AOS. And since I'm learning AOS right now, a great way to learn anything is to teach someone else how to do it, right? It forces you to think about things differently, to parse your words, as it were. But the problem is that my friend Sean, he owns a big giant Tzeentch demon army. I mean, he owns a lot of 40K armies, but his one that he would play in AOS is his big Tzeentch demon army. And I'm like, dude, like already the army you have makes me not want to even teach you to play AOS. You can always,
hey, if he's new, if he doesn't know AOS, you could always point and be like, oh, horrors aren't good. Screamers. That's where it's at.
Given that he already plays the army in 40K.
Yeah, horrors aren't good in 40K right now, right?
But I don't know.
You'd have to spend because
can pink horrors summon?
They can't summon, but it costs points for them to split in 40K. It's not a free split.
I'm willing to bet that that's the only reason he wants to play AOS is that he doesn't have to pay for all his crazy Tzeentch reserves. So we'll see if we do that. So I'll probably be playing some 40K this weekend, which for my hobby bench has me, since I've kind of finished up or did a lot of work on my Nurgle army leading into the Old Town Throwdown. I'm now pivoting back to my Johnny Marine army and my Primaris army. You'll remember right before I finished up the Nurgle stuff, rebased my Nurgle armies, I had just went on a huge hobby frenzy and built a bunch of heavy intercessors, assault intercessors. I got the Blade Guard, some characters, some Outriders, like a bunch of stuff. And so I got all that stuff built, based, and primed, and now it's ready for, paint bench. That's in front of me, by the way. I could tilt the camera and you'd see my big messy paint bench right here, but that's what it is. And which is ironic, and I don't know how this happened, but I kind of do. So I'll scoot this way, and you'll see right down there, you'll see some paints right there. And those paints are the corner of this desk. That desk over there is theoretically my painting station. Got my lights and my paints and everything for my painting station. But somehow it's become my pile of junk desk. And over here on my computer desk has become my hobby desk. So I don't know how these things happen. Anyway, so those are some paints that our good buddy Ben Schmoller gave me. I think he won them at the Old Town Throwdown at the end. There's some good prize support, and this is part of a from War Paints, basically like a zombicide set. So it's like zombie flesh, blood, rot, all those kind of things. So yeah, that's basically what's been in my phase. The other standard stuff, I talk a little bit about the pepper garden. Everything's ripe. Oh my gosh, this last burst of right now, amazingly, as we talk, it's raining outside at my house. It was 80 degrees earlier, and now it's raining. And Donna and I were like, this is like earthquake weather. I'm like, this is definitely earthquake weather. Anyways, and if you're from out here, you know what I mean by earthquake weather. Anyway, so if I start doing this, you know what's happening. But anyway, so the pepper garden with this last burst of heat out of August and early September has just ripened up everything. I'm looking out the window here and I just see, 100 beautiful ripe peppers, reds, oranges, yellows, all that kind of stuff. So in the next week, I am actually sending out a shipment to various friends, the Good Boy Pepper Club. I'm probably only going to have one harvest this year. So not everybody gets peppers this year, and not everybody gets a lot of peppers this year. So got a few people like Alex there and a few other favorites, Garrett, James, etc. That we have. We have a couple of our patrons that are big pepper fans. In fact, get me your address. You know who I'm talking to. Get me that address. So anyways, I will send those probably out in the next week. And after that, hopefully get some videos in with various people trying this year's crop of peppers. I know I've done a few videos, but I haven't recorded myself eating all the peppers. I have tried all but one so far. And there's some peppers out there that were way more intense than I was expecting. I may or may not have bitten into a pepper and turned around and threw up in my backyard like 2 seconds later.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Shit.
And so I was like, oh wow, that was not what I was expecting. So anyway, so that's fun is coming up for everybody in the next week or so. And that's about it for me.
Wow. I gotta say,
like I was debating whether I should get into Garrett's phase because we miss our good buddy Garrett this week, but I just don't want to steal his thunder. For those in the know, for those that pay attention, I'm all about double entendres, hints, and cookies. If you think I'm saying what I'm saying at any given time, you're not listening close enough, probably. But
probably not.
Our buddy Garrett is also in New York.
Is he?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So we have Jeremy and Garrett in New York.
Huh. I wonder if they're going to meet up.
Interesting.
Wait,
Anyway,
why
so
is
we'll
Garrett in New
hear
York?
all about that next week when we have both of them back on, and we'll see what various adventures they had in.
Wait a minute.
Ding 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 ding.
Is Jeremy going to that? No, Jeremy's not going to that.
No.
Okay, I was like, I swear to fucking God, if he ends up going to that, I was gonna be so fucking mad.
I mean, does he have an army with him?
Yes, he does.
Oh, wow! How about that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll hear.
He's got Fire Slayers. Oh, he's got. Actually, he's got 2.0 Fire Slayers with him.
Oh, yeah. The points might not even add up.
So he probably has about 2,700 points worth of Fire Slayers with himself.
Did they
right
go
now.
up in points? I didn't think they could get more expensive.
Some things went up, and then they also got some big changes to them. Was the fact that they did go up in points, and then in addition to that, they you can't make Hearthguard Berserkers battle line anymore, I believe. Oh no, I think you still can. Because they are not naturally battle line. Also,
so it takes a particular general or something, right? Is it one of those dealios?
Now I don't actually. They're not battle line base, but they can only be reinforced because of that. They can only be reinforced once. So you're going to see, 10-man units unless you do the special purposes that make them battle line, but they're already going up in points. So if you do like 2 blocks of 20, they're in units of 5. So you cannot get 2 blocks of 20. You can get blocks of 5 and 10. Some are 10, some are 5.
It's funny that it seems that just seems for some armies to be such a restrictive thing, that the reinforcement limit. Like it's like
I'm okay with it.
Mostly it works. And then you look at just a couple armies or even a couple specific units, and you're like, ooh, there's a unit where they didn't consider that, So
That's right. And they are battle line only if the general is an Auric Rune Father. But like I mentioned, they are only in squads in units of 5. Berserkers and Hearthguard are the ones that do it right for them. And then there's Volkite Berserkers as a standard battle line. And Volkite Berserkers are in units of 10.
Oh, okay.
And they're battle line. But Hearthguard Berserkers are far more deadly and scarier because, you can do the ones with the mortal wounds, or you can do, the ones that are damaged 2 naturally, depending on if you want to do the swords, the axes with rend at damage 2, or the flails at no rend, but with mortal wound potential. And so, those only come in units of 5. So you're going to see like the 10-man units of like hardy, but not necessarily punchy battle line. And you could maybe bring them up to units of 20 if you want, but there's no reason to. And then maybe no more than 1 unit of 20 and then units of 5 Hearthguard Berserkers, or maybe 2 units of 10. I think when I saw you can reinforce battle line as many times as you want, but you can only reinforce 4 times, right? So
4 times total at 2,000 points.
Yeah, I think I saw when I fought against Jeremy's 3.0 Fire Slayers, he had brought a couple of units of Berserkers. He had a whole array of heroes. Like you have to definitely hero hammer Fire Slayers in 3.0. But then I think he brought 1 unit of 15 and 1 unit of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. That's what it was, because he needed to equal up, and they were his. The Auric Rune Father was the general, so that he could make them battle line, so you can reinforce them more than once. Because that's the thing: if the Auric Rune Father is not the general, you could only ever have 10-man units of Hearthguard Berserkers. So you had a unit of 15, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 unit of 10, so that'd be 4. So you used up all his reinforcement points, and still, it's like a chunk of his points. It's not nearly as effective as 40 like it used to be. Now it's just 25. So
yeah, and I think that there's a lot of the non-battle line units that also suffer that same thing. It's like, normally people were taking, what we would call now 2 times reinforced or 3 times reinforced versions of particular units, and now you aren't going to see that, with stuff.
My final Night Hunt list had 2 units of 40 chain rasps.
Yeah.
So that's literally reinforced 4 times or 3 times for both of them.
Right.
And then so my last night hunt list in 2.0, right before 3.0, had 8 reinforcements.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it had 8 reinforcements. So double the amount that you could even legally have in 2K. But that was before reinforcements existed. So whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, most of my lists were running like 6 to 8 quote reinforced units as well. I was kind of looking back and stuff. I'm like, okay, can't do this, this don't exist no more. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. You know, one of the things is it does really force you to go back to the drawing board on your list. I know it forced me to completely redo and actually, like I said, I'm actually happier now with Nurgle than I was when I was playing it at the last LVO 2 years ago. You know, it's like they're in a pretty good state right now. You know, I'm hard pressed to complain much about them. I haven't thrown the Skaven back on the tabletop, and I'm just not feeling it. Still not going to.
After I played them in Old Town Throwdown, I was like, oh, they fall apart like a house of cards.
Yeah, I was. So I kind of ran into that problem a little bit. You know, I was in my 4th round at the Old Town Throwdown. I was playing against Skaven Scryer, and at that point, I was fairly committed that was going to be my last round, and I was going to spend the afternoon hanging out with Donna by the pool. Right? That's where I was. And I start playing, and all of a sudden, I'm like starting to roll into my opponent's army. I'm like, whoa. Here, let's just maneuver over here instead. Now, I didn't go off any objectives. I didn't do anything like that. But I just was a little less aggressive with my, shall we say, charging full force into his entire army. Okay. I'll chill here and hold these objectives. And so we ended up having a very close game because of it. But yeah, it was just one of those things I was like, wow, you know, Skaven hit hard. And I can see where if the dice go your way, that is an insanely deadly army. But it
requires you to have all your dice. It
requires all the dice to go your way. And even average dice isn't cutting it. You need miracle dice rolling. Because like that's what was happening. He's rolling, you know, he overcharges the warp lightning cannon. That thing can be devastating to my army. And then he rolls a 6 as the target. And then rolls, you know, 4 1s and nearly kills himself with mortal wounds and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you know, yeah, that's not how that thing is insane. You know, on the other hand, you do that same unit, you roll a 1, and all of a sudden you have 12 mortal wounds pumping out, and people are like, that's the most broken thing ever.
Yeah, it really, I don't think Skaven can do it right now. I'll be honest. Sure, if dice go well for any army, that they're gonna excel, but like, fuck, man, like they don't get anything nice. They need a book. They
did get one nice new mechanic in so much as the weapons teams being able to basically hide inside of troops or whatever units. That's pretty potent stuff. So he was able to make super effective use of that. I didn't realize though, at least at first, that when the weapons team popped out, it was then its own independent unit. Yeah. So I didn't target it for a couple rounds. Oh no! And it was just tearing me
super up. Super vulnerable.
And then I was like, and he like moved away from it. I'm like, oh, you're out of coherency to the weapons team. And he's like, oh no, it's a separate unit. I'm like, oh, it's dead. It's dead. It's gonna die right now. Yeah. Wow. And then, so I puked on it with a great unclean one, and that was that. You know,
as you would, as one would do.
As one would do.
Yeah, no, Skaven are not in the greatest shape. There are a lot of armies that aren't, and in fact, since our last recording, there were updates to some of our updates. If our listeners recall, Jeremy and I did a live stream where we went through the entire big FAQ because there was just so much to do. I remember at the start of it, Jeremy was like, "This is gonna be a 2-hour video." I'm like, "No, it's not." An hour and 57 minutes later, we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
But there were amendum. There were changes to the FAQ. So an FAQ to the FAQ, if it were. And a lot of the things were changed. I don't know if you yourself were able to look at them.
No, I didn't see that. Tell me what's going on. Give me the highlights.
Well, for those that may not already know, the problems that were in the FAQ were fixed for the most part.
Give me a couple of the what specifically, like what was super broken crap?
Very explicit verbiage on what a ward save is in 2 different areas. So now there is no such thing as a shrug and a ward save. Now they're all ward saves. Because if you recall, there was that conversation about how there was the things that cause a ward save and then things that are rolls to determine whether or not you take damage after a wound is allocated to you, which there was no such name for that roll. That was
right.
So we had called it, locally, I guess within, the hosts and within, the team that we're associated with, just we called it shrug saves. Mm-hmm. So you could have Vermin Lord Warpseer who could potentially have, their armor save, then ward save from the amulet, then their rerolling, then another shrug save, then another shrug save, or something like
protection
that.
of the Great Horned Rat, which is its own special rule. Or what was the other one? Of course, for Nurgle, we have the Nurgle's Blessing or whatever it is.
That's right.
Discussing resilient. That's it.
Because the only things that were considered ward saves in the entire 3.0 prior to this were explicitly the amulet, right, the generic relic, and the prayer that gives a 6+1, and the mystical terrain gives you a 6+ ward for models within an inch. Right. That's it. So all these other saves were not wards, but because of the FAQ, it was explicitly known that you could roll them in addition to the ward, but after the ward. Games Workshop.
Yeah, because when I first read the rules when it came out, I had assumed that all of those mechanics would just be ward saves. It's okay, they're clear. You get one of these done. Yeah. And
I think everyone did it. Well, I played at Old Town Throwdown, and I could have had, my guys roll their death saves, and then also an amulet save or whatever like that. And I played maybe one game after the FAQ with Zombie Dragon with the amulet, where I had a 3+ save, then a 5+ ward save, then a 6+ shrug, deathless minion save. And, 2 days later, there was an FAQ to the FAQ. So thankfully, Games Workshop then cited that all of these saves to ignore damage or rolls that ignore damage after your save has been failed, those are ward saves. So
now whatever it is, if you think you have the one thing that's a loophole, F you, no, it's a ward save.
Obviously, that's not the specific verbiage, and it's actually listed twice in the General's Handbook FAQ in 2 different zones, kind of like what they did with one of them that I don't know if you watched our live stream, you saw that I got a big kick out of was there was an FAQ saying that if you redeployed, you cannot also Overwatch. What is it called? What's the Overwatch one? Oh my gosh, I can't believe why. Yeah,
what is that?
What is it called?
Why can't I think of it right now? Volley?
Yeah, something like that. You can't do your Overwatch shots in the charge phase if you also redeployed earlier in that turn. But I always got a kick out of the fact that had to be listed twice on the General's Handbook FAQ, because in the actual rulebook before the FAQ, it legit says if you redeploy, you can't shoot later in that turn. Well, the volley fire certainly is shooting later in the turn. It's clear as day that you can't shoot later in the turn, which means you can't use that command ability. Lo and behold, it needed to be listed twice to nail it and then nail it down further to be yes, you guys, no, you can't do that. So it's not an FAQ. It's more like slapping someone up beside the head. But another big one was that faction terrain can be placed outside of your zone for certain armies. Basically, Sylvaneth, Wildwoods got less hosed. In the FAQ, they got completely hosed. They could only be placed in your territory, even the ones that are produced later in the game.
Oh,
and there are a good number of
considered that because I summoned trees as part of Nurgle.
Same thing. We had that discussion in the live stream. It hosed Nurgle too, because Nurgle it literally said any faction terrain that starts on the table before the game and all that are summoned, where are they placed? And the FAQ said they have to be placed in the player's territory.
Right.
which means
right.
that your Rodigus, the special Nurgle points, you couldn't just pop up. You could pop up another tree as long as it's explicitly within your territory, and that's it.
Interesting.
And there are some missions where your territory is only 11 inches up and then across the board. So that's awful.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that hosed Sylvaneth way more than Nurgle because they require the teleporting and stuff like that.
I guess
so they fixed
Skaven Gnawholes would be hosed by that too.
Skaven Gnawholes would be hosed by that. That's correct. So they fixed that.
okay, fair enough. I mean, they're hosed anyways because I played against the Skaven player and he put a Gnawhole in my backfield, and turn one I just smashed it with my Great Unclean One, and it was gone. So
there's that. Yeah. There were a few other changes too, but nothing too significant to note besides those two. Really, they were just kind of clarifications. And the armies that did not get an FAQ at all, which was Lumineth, Nighthaunt, and Feck, still did not get any update at all during that additional update to the FAQ. So I don't know why those three armies literally didn't get touched.
Well,
two of them are far older than one.
Watertight. Watertight as they is.
Watertight. But with all these rules that are coming around, or with all these rules changes, it is curious to see about what is going on with things right around the corner. And, if we had Schmoller on, part of me wants to have him on as a guest in a few weeks after the Battle Tome comes out, because boy, oh boy, I'm sure he is incredibly excited. He's a good friend of ours, and he is the TO and organizer of Cruise Hammer and the Cascadia Open, formerly T-Shift. And he plays for a lot of 40K. You got a Custodes army. He's also got his wife has a Lumineth army, and then he has a Stormcast army and Orc War Clan army. So
no
pre-orders on Saturday. He's very excited about the new armies, the new look, and of course, Games Workshop has been gracious enough to continue to shine light. Nice. Basically, they've thrown us bones, and we've gone running for them.
Right. Well,
were you able?
The new Stormcast, some of them are absolutely gorgeous looking. The models are good. All the new line. I mean, it's become a trope with GW is that every year we're like, wow, this new line is amazing, and then the next set of models come out, and you're like, oh, okay, I thought the last set of models was the most awesome set, and it goes by lines, So myself, for better for worse, I've been collecting Stormcast as long as this game has been out, and though I still swear I'm trying to sell that Stormcast army, I won't.
You won't.
And so I look at these things, I'm like, oh well, if I add these to my army when I sell it, it'll be that much more valuable.
Well, there are some important parts of the Stormcast that we know are even before the information that they had shared with us this week. There's information about Stormcast that would maybe help you keep your army, keep the minis that you got a little bit more. One of which I believe is the fact that Stormcast counters 3 models on an objective. I don't know how that equates to the bigger models, the larger ones that are, say, 5 or more wounds, like a Dracoline. But I know that, Liberators, Vindicators, etc., they're going to count as 3 to a model. Some things got improvements that are armor saves, others didn't. The great thing is sometimes you need to rely on a Ruber Mill, sometimes you don't. A lot of, if for those who, if you're listening to this episode, you probably have bought an Age of Sigmar kit or any Games Workshop kit recently. And in the last few years, they have rules on the back of the instructions. And, sometimes the prints come out in other countries before they come out, stateside. And usually it's back east, typically, Japan. And there were some instructions that had come out recently, about a week ago, with instructions for Vindicators, Liberators, Dracoline, and everything's getting a rend. Everything's getting an additional rend. Some things are getting improvements to their armor saves, but really Dracoline with rends 2 on their mounts with their 2 damage that they had previously is awesome.
Going up to rend 1 for a lot of stuff is nice, but it's not a big deal. There's a lot of ignore rend 1, reduce rend 1. But when stuff starts hitting rend 2, now you're almost guaranteed to get through the reduction mechanics, or I guess you are technically guaranteed to get through the reduction mechanics
potentially,
and really start, chopping away at those 1-up saves and stuff like that.
Yeah, you need a lot more than Rend 1 nowadays. I found that myself playing armies that primarily have Rend 1, but like Liberators did not have Rend.
Yeah.
A lot of Stormcast battle line did not have any Rend, and they just kind of existed to exist. So giving them the ability to have some kind of Rend is still helpful. If not, it helps force your opponent to make an equal roll by all-out defensing or mystic shielding or what have you, like you mentioned.
Yeah. They were, to me, they were always a lackluster battle line. I mean, they're battle lines, so we say, okay, nothing special. But when you look at some of the battle lines available from a lot of other armies, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, basic Stormcast battle line, not they're attacks. They're attacks on my army. So,
yep.
And you give them the Rend, you give them a little bit better. They got a better save too, right? Or just
some things got better saves. I don't believe they got better saves.
Whatever. Yeah. Either way, and now they're holding 3 models per, or count as 3 models on objectives, which is also pretty huge.
That's right. That's right. And so it's very exciting to see where they go with that. I actually am very, very interested to see what they do with the rest of the army. I had played a local guy, friend of mine, Art, and he brought I think it was Living City. Cities of Sigmar army, but he had Yndrasa and he had Griff Chargers, and like the Griff Chargers just did not perform the way that I would have expected them to. And Yndrasa was a beast, but she went down in the silliest way. I think she went down to like regular old skeletons, I think.
Oh wow.
She's got a 4-up shrug. She got 8 wounds, 3-up save with 4-up to ignore. So now it's a 4-up ward, but she's got a 4-up ward to ignore damage. She's pretty fucking cool. And she hits in combat okay, but her spear hits like a brick shit house if it goes through. And of course, units, monsters within 3 inches of her are automatically considered 10 less wounds in terms of their degrade table.
Oh,
it's great.
Wow,
she's a monster hunter. Her fluff in the battle tome or in the war scroll too is that she's a cat. She is a 100% an outdoor cat. She will throw the heads of beasts at the footsteps of Sigmar, not say a damn word, throw him just the head of a beast and walk away. And if anyone's owned a cat, you've seen like a dead rat at your doorstep or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, there's been a lot of whatevers. Yeah.
A lot of whatevers. Yeah. So she's truly just like the cat of Azure.
I like it.
Yeah. But no, she's a good number of points. She's like 300 and something points. And she's great. She just does not do good against hordes, which is a problem. But yeah, of course, Stormcast do, when they die, you roll a dice, and on a 6, they do mortal wounds back, so they shoot back up into Azure, and they do mortal wounds when they die potentially. Oh, so
that's a nice small thing. You might tick the last wound off of a small character or something like that with that extra mortal wound. So I could get into that. It's nothing game breaking because it's not like you have a 30-man unit that just got wiped and is potentially pumping out 10 or 15 mortal wounds coming back. It's always going to be 1 or 2 at most that you generate.
Well, I did misspeak. You roll a dice for the number of wounds that they had, for the wound characteristic of the model that died. Okay, so you roll 2 wounds for each dead Stormcast. So
okay. Well, that's
if someone
strong.
Goes hot and kills like 5 out of 10 Liberators, you roll 10 dice and there's some potential mortal wounds there.
Okay, that's a little sexier than I thought. I like that.
Yeah.
You're convincing me. Okay, well, I'm not convinced that I'm actually going to keep the army, but we'll hold it on the shelf till we get the next battle tome in hand.
All right. Now, I was going to go in and, we were given a little bit of a bone when it came to, War Clans and Stormcast this week with Games Workshop and on the Warhammer community site. But, I realized that the Stormcast article was actually all about Path to Glory, which, okay. So that kind of skips that there. However, outside of Stormcast, you don't own any War Clans, do you?
No, I am an orc-free individual.
You're an orc-free individual, as am I. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm always tempted with destruction, but I need them to make a compelling destruction army for me. I think that would be, again, a Silent Ones type of thing. If they do insectoid destruction army, I'm 100% in on that.
Ooh, yeah.
And then, like, if it's a damn shame that they didn't just make the species of Kragnos and just bring him, because if they did like a centaur thing, I'd be very heavily tempted.
Yeah, that might be kind of cool. Low model count, centaur, cavalry, archers, and yeah, you could do a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, something not a 4 model army like Mega Gargants, but maybe like 12 models or something.
And I got to admit, Alex, it's like you look at orcs in 40K, and it's frightening. It's frightening the kind of people who play orcs.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what I'm talking about. It's those are like all of us who play these Warhammer games are a little obsessive. I mean,
yeah.
If you have any doubt, one spin of my camera will guarantee levels of obsession. And if Alex turned off his backdrop, we would have probably firm confirmation of said obsessions as well. But we are tame, mild individuals compared to some of the orc players that I know. Guys with tens of thousands of points, every one of which is some custom kit bashed praised creation. Okay, because of that, I'm afraid to ever build a 40K orc army, because I know I would like it. That's a slippery slope that John just never needs to start down.
Really?
Oh yeah. What happens when I just start going full custom mode on an entire? No, I never finish, and I end up with a second room of my house filled with nothing but crazed orc projects. I think of the late great Mike Derry towards the end there. Building like 30 custom orc tanks. It's like, why are you doing 30 custom tanks? He goes, in case someday we do a giant APOC game and it's orcs against the world. I'm like, I have no doubt that you intend that game to happen, and it might happen. It didn't happen. It might happen, right? And so when I look at the Aurochs in AOS, they look cool. I like them. I think the army looks cool. I like some of the different themes. There's some nice fluff back there. The models are gorgeous because, of course, new AOS gorgeous models.
Yeah.
But my reluctance to go down that slippery slope in 40K means that I stay away from the entry drug that is Aurochs in AOS. It's like, oh no, I'm not going to go do those hardcore 40K orcs. I'm just going to do some friendly little Aurochs here in AOS, maybe make a list, and next thing I know, boom, there's 20,000 points of 40K orcs built up on the shelf. Like, no, so we're going to stay well away from the whole.
Okay. Thing. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty smart of you. It's a bit of a challenge with some of the things that have come out. Like, they're going to come out with so many new models with Orc Warclans. I mean, heck, when I played just the other day with a good guy up here, Steve, and he had actually, when I was learning the battle tome for Soulblight Gravelords, he had smacked me around a little bit, so I had to get some revenge. And he had brought a Maw Crusher, and he had brought a Rogue Idol against me. And knowing full well that he was forced into Big Wa because Rogue Idols, they're forced into Big Wa or forced into Iron Jaws. They lost one of the keywords that's required, I think, for Big Wa. Yes, I think he was forced into Iron Jaws because of that. But they are all about really, really strong, smaller models and really, really big, ridiculous, pretty models. Like that buzzard that's coming out. Who knows what that's going to look like? We're going to find out pretty soon when that NDA lifts. But there are a couple of models that we learned about just today, and it's kind of made the internet go a lot of different ways. There's a lot of feelings that people have for both the Break-a-Boss on the Meierbrute Troggoth. This is the dude hanging out on top of the troll, kind of a Lotor style troll rather than, it's still very much Warhammer troll, but it's got a different vibe than the regular Troggoths.
To me, it's a little bit like thicker. It's the one is how it's standing more erect rather than hunched because the way he's riding it. But also, if you look at like the joints of the limbs, it's like a beefier troll than some of the other ones, and that's what I'm seeing. Like look at
more definition.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was also the non-heroed unit, which is the Beast Skewer Killbow, which, we'll definitely take a look at here too. But like, I'm actually really shocked at the amount of like, I don't want to call them hot takes. I think that it's low-hanging fruit. It's almost like lukewarm takes here. But I had seen a guy on Twitter who had been like, the Break-A Boss is the most boring war scroll I have ever seen Games Workshop produce, like do better GW.
Wow.
And yeah, right. And for our listeners,
is that like a comment on like the color text at the beginning here? Let's see. What does it say?
Oh no, that was a hot take on Twitter.
yeah. Well, I mean, it just says Break a Boss on a Meyer Brute is armed with a Bident goad. No fluff at all. Some of those war scrolls have little stories on them. So yeah, I guess it's kind of boring from that perspective.
Sure, it's boring from that perspective, but it's got, maybe it's a pretty simple war scroll. There's not eight rules.
Nope.
There's just 3, or there's technically just 2 rules on the unit. And just like any other war scroll, there's a bit of fluff. They talk about how, towers over his minions, largely because he rides on the shoulders of a massive Troggoth,
it is significant that it's a 12 wound model with no degradation table.
I was going to say, it's important to note that this is a new trend.
Oh.
Look at Radakar the Beast, Chadakar the Beast.
Oh, sure.
Radakar is 12 wounds with a 4-up save. He is not a monster, which, fits in line with my confusion, my dilemma of running Radakar or Coven Throne, because the Coven Throne is also 12 wounds. It's not a monster because it's not a monster. It's like a floating platform.
But it has a table, though, doesn't it? Coven Throne?
It's got a table. Yeah. That one actually does have a table. Yeah. However, Radakar is 12 wounds, 4-up save, very strong, hits like a monster, acts like a monster for all intents and purposes without being one.
Yeah, the summony thing, right?
Oh, he's got the command ability where he can bring dogs in.
Yeah.
But he hits like a brick shit house. He's got 12 attacks, two sequences of 6 attacks that don't degrade because he's not a monster. And this is the exact same thing. 12 wounds, but he's only got a 5-inch move, bravery 7, 4-up save.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned his Bident goad, which I want to call it a Biden goad, but I don't want to get political. Or
I guess I misread that when I first looked at it. Yeah, Biden.
No, I definitely read it that way too. He does a lot of damage, right?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. 2 damage, 3 damage. He's got no rend on 1 attack, 2 rend on the other. Total of 9 attacks. That seems pretty good. He's also got this weird mechanic where he can take mortal wounds, and in exchange he adds to the attacks of the iron-bound clubs. That's the rend 2, 3 damage. So yeah, you basically take D3 mortal wounds on yourself, and for each mortal wound that you take, you add 2 more attacks. So that's a potential of adding 6 attacks. That would have to be like, you could have actually 10 attacks, 3 up, rend 2, 3 damage. And then, of course, the other 5 attacks, 3 up, 2 damage, no rend. You start stacking some command abilities and other stuff on there. Maybe an aura, I'm not sure what's available to him. And that guy's wrecking some face.
Yeah. So each mortal wound it suffers, you can add 2 to the attack characteristic of the Iron Battle Clubs until the end of that phase. It's in the combat phase, so he doesn't degrade. So you don't have to worry about, you have to worry about taking the wounds. You got to make sure that you survive.
Yeah, there's probably a heal mechanic you can apply to him somehow too.
If war chances don't get the priest keyword, I think everyone should just riot. The fact that war chances don't have priest keyword is obnoxious to me. But because that's kind of like their whole thing, right? But when we take a look at this attack, like you said, he's got 5 attacks with the goad, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, no run, 2 damage. Then with the Ironbound clubs, 4 attacks, potentially 10 attacks, 3's to hit, 3's to wound, 2 rend, 3 damage. You were just saying a moment ago that, rend 1 almost doesn't matter. You need rend 2 or more nowadays, which there isn't much outside of rend 2. But, rend 2 is the new rend 1 almost. And
Right.
oh boy. 2 rend with 3 damage with up to 10 attacks. If he just goes down to 9 wounds, doesn't degrade. Holy fucking shit.
Yep. And I just noticed on his war scroll, he does heal D3 wounds a turn too.
Yep.
So
and that's actually something that's
D3, but healing D3. So averages say it all balances.
And that's not even counting the fact, you know what? So he has a hero. Yeah. So he's a hero, which means that he could do heroic actions. He could heal himself. The problem is you roll 2d6, you have to roll under a 7.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm so used to doing it with death armies.
Yeah, same here.
I rolled quite a few 11s, which was frustrating. But
I've rolled a 10 with my demons, and that's the worst I've done.
So you just healed 1 wound instead of none. Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, all in all, I actually think that the things you could do with this guy is what makes him very interesting. And he's not a monster, so killing him doesn't give any special points. And he's a hero, which is helpful. But he does fit into that category where he does nothing for your list building. Radikar does the same thing, because there are commanders and there are sub-commanders. And he is only going to be a commander or an extra commander. He's not going to be a sub-commander at all.
Right, because of his number of wounds. Yeah, it's funny. I see here on the actual article, they're showing you a command ability, a command trait that you can give him if he's your general, that allows him to basically teleport on turn 1. So now you're teleporting him across the table, charging him into the enemy army or enemy flank on turn 1. So he could be used as a pretty heavy disruption unit too. Especially
Super
nowadays, if you can pin your opponent in their deployment zone, that's almost like a fatal loss in a lot of the missions.
Yeah. No, and this is actually pretty helpful too, because there's one mission out there still that doesn't allow deep strikers, people from reserve, underworld gravesite, storm keep, etc. So being able to nail things down, especially in that mission where things can't redeploy typically or come on from the battlefield, is pretty helpful.
Because this wouldn't be a reserve. This would be it's just a set up again anywhere on the battlefield. Set up again. Those are very specific words. There's no point does it say it's removed. It's never removed. It's only set up again.
Yes, set up again. Exactly. Which is good verbiage. It's that is actually kind of a watertight situation.
Yeah.
However, the other war scroll that we got, the Beast Skewer Killbow, has also gotten, let's call them internet hot takes. But boy.
First off, let me say I really like the model. That is just a fun little model. There's a lot going on there.
There's so much going on this one. And I actually got to say, the fluff section underneath them, the first sentence slays me. But it's the idea of an orc that can shoot straight seems like a contradiction, but they do exist. Those who operate the portable ballistas known as Beast Skewer Killbows can not only bullseye a target, but also slay several smaller enemies in a single shot. We already knew what the, some part of the, or most of the skewer bolts, and what they did. And they are great. I cannot wait to see the amount of points that this thing is.
Oh, right. It's funny. I'm as a, even though my Skaven have been retired for a while, I'm the eternal Skaven pessimist. And I'm looking at this thing and it's like, man, that is an amazing shooty weapon. So no jealousy there, though it's only, one shot, I guess. But I look at their melee and I'm like, damn it, these guys actually aren't bad in melee either. What's up with that?
Oh, but no, the Beast Skewer is not good in melee. It's just 3 attacks, force to hit, force to wound, no range.
Yeah, that's because you're not used to having Skaven weapon teams that have like 1 attack hitting on 5s.
That's fine. That's true.
Okay,
that's cool.
But other than that, I mean, I'm not saying it really is only 1 shot, right?
It is 1 shot, which is Yeah, that's true. So, for our listeners who hadn't seen, they had posted the rules for the Beast Skewer bolt actually for that explicit weapon. I want to say a month ago, but as a reminder, and there's some additional rules we have to this. It is either 12 shots, 1 attack, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, 2 rend, or 24 inches, 1 shot, 2 to hit, 3 to wound, 2 rend. So you want to probably keep yourself as indomitable as your triumph to do a +1 to wound once. And this is all prefaced by the notion that we don't know if they're going to be single units or if they're going to be units of them, like 1 to 3 bolt skewer kill bows. And
wait. So wait. Did I follow you right? Even though on the article here it says they only have 1 attack at the hasty shot, that's actually 12 attacks at the hasty shot.
It's not 12 attacks.
Because I'm looking here and it says there's a hasty shot and an aimed shot. And the aimed shot is the same number of shots, but it has a longer range and better everything. So why would I even do that?
Sometimes you're forced to. It does say on Pick 'em Off, when this unit attacks the Beast Skewer bolt, use its aimed shot missile weapon characteristic if it did not make a normal move in the same turn and is more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Otherwise, you have to use your hasty shot missile weapon. So you either have to completely stay still and maybe get Hand of Gorked because it's set up, it's not moved.
Right.
So maybe you get Hand of Gorked to teleport across the table, but you are at 24 inches and stagnant, or if you move, you got to do your hasty shot.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But boy, oh boy, oh boy. And again, this is the situation where, again, I saw another person online be like, why do I have to roll to hit, roll to wound, you fail your save, and then I have to even roll if I do any damage? So everyone with D6 damage weapons are like, yeah, that's exactly how this works. But
right.
The way that the rule works is we didn't express the damage when we talked about the weapon or either the hasty shot or the aim shot, because in order to determine damage with the skewered rule, the damage characteristic for an attack made by a Beast Skewer bolt is produced by rolling the number of dice equal to the wounds characteristic of the target unit. So if it's a unit of, say, Stormcast Vindicators, you roll 2 dice. If it's a Mega Gargant, you roll 35 dice. If it's, Be'lakor, you roll 14 or 15. If it's unit of Graveguard, you roll 1 dice.
Is that what it is? Because I read that and I would think of like a unit of 20 Graveguard has 20 wounds. Because that's the wounds characteristic of the unit, not the model.
The characteristic is what's on the war scroll.
Yeah, I'm just saying because it says unit, not model. So I think of the unit as a 20 wounds versus one model might have 1 wound.
It's okay. That's interesting. I believe it. And it's actually reinforced by the way they describe the thing in the little fluff section, that it can go through big models and multiple and small models alike, or hordes alike. I believe you on that. But yeah, my initial understanding was that it was, let's say a 20-man Graveguard unit was a unit of 20 models with a wound characteristic of 1.
Right. And that would make this like a super ineffective weapon against anything but, and it is called the Beast Skewer Kill Bowl, against beasts and monsters. So from that perspective, it sounds very fluffy, right?
Yeah. But you bring up a really good point. You've I think probably convinced me that it is going to be scary as fuck against hordes too.
Because it does, like you said, it does say there in the fluff, but also slay several smaller enemies with a single shot. And so if it was, you could never slay several enemies. Well, I guess you could technically, because the damage is, is 2 plus 1 for each 5 up. So if the damage is 1, you could possibly do 3 damage against a horde. Lackluster.
Yeah, against a horde, you might do 3. Against Stormcast, you could potentially do 2 plus. So it'll be interesting.
Get jacked.
Monsters get jacked. What's the average of 35 with the 5 ups? What?
That third, so like 10, 11, somewhere in that range. 10, 11 mortal wounds on average for 5 ups.
11. So that would be 11 plus the 2. It maxes out at 12. So
Yep,
your average dice, granted average dice would, and remember it's got a 2-up, it's a 2-up, or pardon me, it's rend 2, and they all have, let's say they all out defense a Mega Gargant. He's got a 5-up save. Otherwise it's going to be a 6-up save.
Yep.
And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Like, then you roll and you're on average going to do your maximum of 12 wounds. Now, if the kill bow is cheap points wise, and even more so if they're in units, which I don't believe they're going to, but if there's a possibility of them being in units, 3 of them will on average kill. We'll do 12 damage each,
well, you
and do 36 wounds out of a 35 wound model.
Yeah, no, you couldn't do 3, right? Because you could only upgrade once.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because it doesn't say that they come in units of 3. So it is a single model. This unit is, it's just a single model.
Oh, it doesn't say it's made up of any number of models. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It is a single unit.
I myself, I'm going to guess 120, 140 point range is what I'm feeling on.
Really? I'm going to say 180.
You think that expensive, huh? Okay.
So, which would be crazy overpriced, but I don't expect them to make too many things in War Clans appropriately priced. There are already things that aren't. But stat wise, they've got a 5-inch move, a 5-up save, which is pretty consistent with Cool Boys, 5 wounds and bravery 5. And I think that's the killer there. That makes things very tough. When
they show, of course, you pair it up with the Big Yellow's War Clan ability, you get some more range, and you're re-rolling 1s to hit. At which point this thing is hitting on a 2-up, re-rolling 1s.
I like how it's going to be a clan called Big Yellers. That is going to be pretty great.
A little bit of fun there for the hobbying, I hope.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, they do mention on one more thing here in that article where they mentioned that there is also an ability called Nasty Hex to make sure that your Savage Bolts, don't miss as much, right? Or don't die as easily, rather. And it's a casting value 7, Nasty Hexes. It's a spell, and it's got a range of 12. And if it's cast, pick one enemy unit within range invisible to the caster until at the end of the turn. Ward rolls cannot be made for models in that unit. So you
turn
point
off the ward. Wow.
Turn off ward. Turn off ward. That's pretty good.
I don't want none of that as a Nurgle player. Like, literally the whole reason I play Nurgle is so I at least have some kind of save against everything. When I'm picking up models and not at least rolling that disgusting resilient, it's a sad day. You shut off the
ward save for the Guo, shut off Zombie Dragon, shut off Nagash, Amulet characters, an Amulet Mega Gargant, which is going to need to, you're going to, as a Mega Gargant player, you're going to probably rely on an Amulet if you can. Mm-hmm. I don't think they can. I don't know. You know what? I don't think they can at all.
Only we had somebody on the show who played those that advise us.
If only. No, I am almost certain that with Sons of Bahamut, you got to keep your tribe, and they might require you to have your first item be, first artifact utilized be in there. So, for example, no. Okay. I don't. Yeah, no, there is no requirement. Yeah, interesting. There are no requirements for you to take have the first artifact be an artifact from your tribe. So,
yeah. No, okay. Well, maybe again, we'll have to remember to ask Garrett when he's back next week from his travels. In fact, our next episode should be a pretty good one with both Garrett back to shall we say enlighten us as to where and what he's been up to, and then I myself am definitely looking forward to hearing what Mr. Vessier has to say about his experience at the AOS Worlds. I don't know if you watched any of the live stream. I watched the stream for a while. Not Tom, but I kind of just jumped in and out of it for a while. I hard to say. It was interesting because obviously everybody had team shirts, so you saw lots of teamy looking action, which is a little bit different. Other than that, it looked like a pretty standard, warehouse type tournament, game hall type.
Yeah. And the next one, and that was in Milan. So I do hope that our good friend Logan was able to hang out with Jeremy.
Oh no, remember, no chance. No chance.
There was no chance?
Yeah, because technically that's right, it was at a hotel, and technically they were all quarantined at that hotel.
Oh, they were all quarantined together.
Yeah, so the tournament was held at the hotel where they were technically all quarantined, and then of course none of them were actually there long enough to finish quarantine and just went home.
Okay. The one, it'll be interesting to see where things went. I mean, we do know what the final standings were, but we'll get into more detail about that in our next episode. And, it was good to see Jeremy's takes on how it went. I already, he's obviously shared a little bit of those details, but I definitely want a little bit more. On top of that, he is now the captain for Team America. The torch hath been passed. So that'll be exciting.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting to see how the added pressure affects his individual path to glory.
Yes, path to glory, if you will. I myself am very happy that the torch was able to be passed, but not before Bill became the subject of a wonderful meme format, meme template over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not.
Oh my Lord. Shit. Okay. Let me find it for you. It's basically, I believe it's when the captain of the Denmark team, I want to say, was working with the team working with Team America to figure out the overall placings for their round together. And it's more than just the captain for Denmark. It is all of them. It is all of the players, basically. And then Bill Sousa on one end hanging out, looking very mighty chill, looking mighty chill.
Oh,
and
really?
Oh boy. Let me see if it's here. Oh, yes. It is on the meme page on our chat. So here's an example.
Are we talking on the Corsair chat here?
No. You'll see it in my background in just a sec.
Oh.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
That's it. We've lost all the Alex.
Yes. Yeah, I'm disappearing. I'm coming in and out. Let's see. And there we go. Okay. It should be loading right now. Okay, cool. So there we go. This is the format. So it is Bill looking mighty chill and an entire other team, and with a random thing like this. So this is one example. But there were
great. That is great.
Oh yeah. So over the weekend, I had seen, I think in our team, kind of like meme sub chat, I had posted 3 of them. I think Schmoller made this one actually on Twitter, but there were at least like 2 more that I had seen that were like very good, like very, very good memes. This one's more relevant if you know the players, I think.
Right. I'll have to poke back through our meme page and see.
Absolutely. So you just got this casual dude. So he made his mark. Which is the important factor.
Okay.
But yeah, besides that, do you have anything going on this weekend? Any events you're going to? Anything that you're going to be playing?
Right. So I myself this weekend probably just going to go to my buddy's Sean's house, as I mentioned earlier, play a little 40K. Coming up in, I want to say 3 weeks. So let me see. That would be the weekend. It's actually just the day of Saturday, the 25th. For those of you in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley Warhammer is going to be doing a 1-day AOS RTT, and we're a little bit limited space in the store. So if there's room, I'm going to play. Otherwise, I'm going to be a TO for the day. So that's kind of how it goes. So either way, I'm going to attend that event. And then very special announcement for In Your Phase Media. You guys may remember that I went to a wonderful event sponsored by the R3 Game Store earlier in the summer, the R&R GT, the Ruben and Ryan GT. That was
That's what it stands for.
Yeah, that was at the American Legion Hall there in Stockton. Great place, ran by veterans, of course, Veterans Hall that it is, with a full bar, which is really worth mentioning. And they're running another wonderful GT. It's going to be October 16th and 17th. It is the R&R GT. You can easily find the tickets on BCP. And that is going to be sponsored by In Your Phase. Not sure what that means other than I'm going to be there talking and schmoozing. But we're actually, I'm going to bring my live stream rig, and I'm going to live stream the top table. So I'll probably be like announcing the games. I'll probably find somebody who's interesting to hang out with me and do the co-announcing, and then we'll be live streaming the games from the GT for the day. So come out and participate. Come to the GT, full bar, lots of cool stuff, and of course live stream brought to you by In Your Phase, the new phase of In Your Phase. So
there you go.
October 16th and 17th. So that's kind of what's coming up for me. I will probably re-mention every one of these events for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So didn't catch it this time, you'll hear it again next week.
I'm sure. I would love to say that I have a ton of events too, but they are all in October. Literally, I think the next one is just going to be SoCal Open. At least the next one to note, if it's not another rando RTT or something. But
I don't know, Alex. Like, I'm just going to tell you straight up. Right now, you're a single man living with your fiance, but in October, you're now a married man, and
no difference.
You think you think there'll be no difference? There will be no difference. Yeah,
this is my arrogance and lack of experience just seething through. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not even gonna argue. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm very excited to find out. We will.
I certainly, in my past, have never heard the phrase, well, I'm your wife now.
That's a good fucking point. Well, we'll find that one out. October is going to be incredibly busy. For me, it's like 2 weeks after, obviously California for the wedding, 2 weeks after, back to the Bay Area for a wedding.
Oh, wow.
A week after that, SoCal Open. And I think I'm forgetting something the weekend after that. I don't know what it is. There's definitely something. I just don't know what it is. So yeah, real busy weekend or month.
Right.
We'll see. Okay. We'll find out.
Okay.
In the meantime, if you guys want to tell me what I should be prepared for, definitely let us know. We are, of course, wherever you get your podcasts, and we will have the rest of our crew with us, of course, next week. But in the meantime, this was Alex and John hanging out and having fun. You guys have a great night.
Night, folks.
Perfect. That was